A recent scenario has arisen in Ghana where the Ghana Revenue Authorities are tackling shareholder loans that are made to the company in a situation where the company has borrowed money from various lending institutions in Ghana and have had to put up all the assets of that company as security. The lending rate from the lending institutions is LIBOR plus a few percentage points. For argument's sake, let's assume 7%. In the situation that I've come across, the shareholders' loans charged 10%. The rationale being that the shareholders are second-tier lenders and that in the event of any default, the bank will be the institution, or the banks will be the institutions that will have the right to have their loans repaid first, and if necessary with the sale of the assets. The shareholder loan accounts, as I've stated, are second tier or second in line, and really there is no underlying security that has been provided in respect of these loans, and thus the shareholders have justified charging a higher percentage to the company concerned. Now, what is important here, because the shareholders in the company are connected persons for transfer pricing purposes, the Ghana Revenue Authorities have taken the point of view that shareholders should not be charging an interest rate as high as the banks, and in fact should be charging a lower percentage because they ultimately own the company concerned. Now, this seems to emanate from a long-standing practice in Ghana adhered to by taxpayers, and also something which has been put forward by various tax advisors within Ghana who have stated that this is common long-standing practice, that shareholders should actually only be charging interest at a lower rate than any lending institution. Now, there is no specific legislated provision in any of the tax laws that states this. This simply appears to be a matter of practice. When the question of the OECD transfer pricing guidelines was raised in discussions, it appeared that the response to that was the guidelines are just that, merely guidelines and not legislation, and therefore it is not necessary for the Ghana Revenue Authorities to adhere to those guidelines and may give effect to their own practice. Now, this is a flawed approach, because if you look at the Ghana transfer pricing regulations or rules, you will note that they adhere to the OECD transfer pricing standards, and the OECD transfer pricing standards or guidelines are the most widely accepted and best international standards to apply in determining what an arm's length price is. And at the end of the day, you determine an arm's length price in a case between shareholders and their company by determining what an unconnected party would typically charge as an interest rate where no security has in fact been provided, as is the case here. And under those circumstances, you would expect that a lender who is lending money with no security in place has a much higher risk, especially where they are now second tier or secondary lenders to the main lenders being the banking institutions, and as such would expect to receive a higher return than, in my example, the 7% paid to the banks. That is the typical fulfillment of the arm's length principle. This is something that people should be aware of, as no doubt it is going to be widely applied by the Ghana revenue authorities in looking at shareholder loans in Ghana.